He is a technologist and a strategist with the breadth of experience in the IT field across multiple domains in roles such as Director of Engineering, Product Manager, Process and Quality Head, Account Manager, PMO and Strategy. Of his overall work experience of 21 years, in addition to his association with industry stalwarts like Walmart and Cognizant, he also has exposure to the startup culture and was a salient member in setting up a captive in Bangalore. During the 10 years of association with Walmart, he helped drive strategy and governance for Walmart in Bangalore and helped define the operational and strategic roadmaps, focusing on people systems and associate productivity domains. In today's episode, let's learn more about Sunil Mathew's career journey and get his insights on excellence in software development.
Hello. Hi there. Welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help professional students, IT employees, and entrepreneurs to shape their careers. Dear listeners, in every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help our audience learn great things. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact about the IT world or technology towards the end. So stay tuned till the end. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your host Naveensamala and with my co-host SUDHAKARNAGANDLA. So folks, today we are going to discuss a very important topic, which is excellence in software development. And we are pleased to welcome Sunil to our show. Sunil, thank you so much for being part of TGV's journey in shaping the lives and careers of millions across the globe.
Thank you. Very glad to be here.
Sunil, welcome to our show. Can we get started?
Absolutely.
So, Sunil, Cognizant, Walmart, startup, captives. Can we talk about your career journey? What are the key milestones and decisions that helped you reach where you are today?
Sure. So I would say even, before starting with all of these, I started with Godrej and Boyce in the capacity of a service engineer responsible for electronic equipments for the state of Kerala, which involved a lot of traveling, working with a lot of dealers, working with a lot of technicians and all of that. So that's how my journey started. And I quickly realized that, my passion lay perhaps in any job that would give me opportunities to learn. And so that's been a strong bias that has driven a lot of my decisions in my career through and through. So I have kind of gravitated towards opportunities that perhaps gave me an ability to learn different job functions within IT initially. So when I started with my development career, it was just technology, right? A lot of different technologies. So I started with mainframe, moved into a lot of proprietary technologies, databases, all of those, and then further continued the journey by looking at different functions as well, be it program management, be it testing, production support, and all of those. So I feel that those decisions have really helped me to develop the breadth of experience that I'm currently finding pretty useful while I am taking up any of the leadership roles that I currently have.
Passion in learning is giving you this opportunity. Really appreciate that one summary. Coming back to today's topic, how do you actually define this excellence in software development?
Sure. Yeah. So what I see, Sudhakar, right now, a lot of young developers, very ambitious people, they gravitate towards the latest and coolest in technology, right? So they have a heavy bias towards probably AI, machine learning. They want to be in blockchain. They want to look at IoT, you name it, right? But for me, excellence will not be possible unless you're singularly focused on what is the need of the business, right? And to be able to look at what solution or what product will help you to deliver what business needs in a way that the product can evolve according to the changing needs of business. So that to me is excellence. And, I've seen lots of people succeed when they realize that, it's not so much about being fixated on a particular technology as it is to be about being able to even surpass the expectations of the business or the customer.
It's a wonderful insight and details around the definition of the software excellence. And you mentioned it's more about being language independent or being some technology independent. And in addition to that, focusing on surpassing or exceeding the customer expectations. Yeah. So with over 2 decades of experience in the IT industry, and now that you have reached to a stage wherein you started mentoring people and all, so what would be your tips that you would like to share with our audience with regard to achieving excellence in the software development?
Sure. I would start off by saying that be very aware of what is the value that your product is delivering, right? So to be able to, so I'll give you a few simple examples, right? So when we created a particular application, we started off by assessing how much of effort is this going to save for the people who are going to use it, right? And it was a simple annual merit or a merit tool, or it could be anything for that matter, right? So that's the start, is be aware of how is this going to help your business. The second is put or make choices so that your product can scale, right? So that is where you would probably need to get into the aspects of either a microservices architecture or look at different aspects of technology which would help your product to scale beyond of the initial use case that you would have thought about. So that's the second aspect. The third aspect is about being able to have your systems self-heal. When I say self-heal, it's a bad experience if you're expecting the customers to call a customer care helpline and say that, hey, I'm not able to use your application for a particular reason, right? So your application needs to have the plumbing to be able to identify when there are failures within your system. And it should even go to the extent of being able to restart some of the services and bring things back up by itself without even having somebody stepping in, right? So that's the third piece. The fourth piece is about having a mechanism to know what the customers feel about your application. So you could embed things like feedback, you could look at NPS or other mechanisms that would help you to understand what is the experience of the customers, right? And the last thing is about being able to move with agility and speed, right? Which is about having CI/CD, having other mechanisms so that your application team can really move fast and respond to what are the needs of the business, right? So those 4 or 5 things, if a team is able to crack that, invariably I feel that they are really progressed toward the software development excellence.
Those are very powerful and excellent tips, Sunil. So
Sure.
Few things that resonate with me is more about ability to scale, okay, which is really important in this fast-paced world wherein the customer acquisition is happening so dynamically, and you might also experience some exponential growth in the customers, right? And
Absolutely.
also with regard to mergers and acquisitions that are taking place. And definitely the pluggability and scalability comes very handy there. And you also touched upon another important aspect of the self-healing, okay, which is more about promoting the reliability of the application. And in case if these products are able to heal themselves in case of any faults and all, yeah, there is nothing more that the customer can expect, and it is going to offer unparalleled customer experience, right?
Yeah.
And you also touched upon the agility and the speed part. So thank you for those wonderful insights. Now,
Sure.
I would like to ask you another question, Sunil. Since the IT or the software field is one of the most dynamic sectors in the world, how should someone keep oneself up to date and build a learning career? What would be your
Absolutely.
insights?
Yeah. So, the first thing that I have learned, and probably in the hard way, is that there is no job that is below you, right? So what I mean to say by that is, in my career, I have transitioned from development to a testing role to an application production support role, right? So in some cases, when you look at the young folks who are coming in, they have got a certain hierarchy for jobs in their mind. They tend to gravitate again towards development because that's cool, right? You're working on the latest technologies, you're in demand, you're adding skill sets. But then if you look at the production support, that's probably where you're understanding the heart and the pulse of the business, right? Because you know what's the impact, what is scalability issue, how do you look at log, all of those, and how do you handle war rooms when the customers are down and they are going through a certain impact, right? So my learning has been, Naveen, that there is no job in IT that doesn't add to your career, right? So that's one thing that I feel is very important, is for everybody to be open to taking things as it comes. But then, you give it some time, see how you are able to learn from that experience. But then also it is important that you don't stay with it if it doesn't suit you, right? So at the right point, you also need to make those steps to know which is a field where you really are going to be in a flow and thriving, and take steps to transition into that role. So just to give you an example, if there are people who are aspiring for data science, I've seen people initiate the conversation with their managers saying, I've done enough of web app development, and now I would like to look at data science. But what they probably do not realize is that journey is not like a switch, right? So you have to start working on data science as a stretch goal, develop familiarity with the field, and then evolve into that space. So that's something that people perhaps need to stay ahead of. So they need to be able to understand their aspirations, and they also need to be a little working in anticipation of making that switch. So those are some of the tips that I would like to share from being able to learn and evolve careers constantly.
Sunil, the way you put it, like, there is no job that is below you, right? So people have this ism, or they come with this preconceived notion that, development is hunky-dory, production support is, cloud is the latest thing. You talk about SMAC or the latest technology that is like you picked on digital aspects, IoT, that buzzword is associated with you or your designation. People have that, like you rightly mentioned, gravitated towards those things. But without understanding the reality, without understanding the end-to-end life cycle and that breadth, you would only go up to one point.
Yeah.
And that very great point, which resonated well with me, is the transition aspect. It is not like 0 or 1. Okay, we are in digital world. It is zeros and ones. But in the life and in career, you need to have that smooth transition from one role to another. Initially you may say that, 90% of it is development, 10% is the data science in your example. And, over a period of time, it can be 10% development and 90% data science, and it, smoothly transition into 100% new role. And the third point is about, grab every opportunity that comes towards you, right? Don't over-engineer it, overcook it. So some really great pearls of wisdom, I would say there. Continuing on those suggestions, you highlighted these 3 points, and in the previous part, you talked about, being scalable, being ready for merger and acquisition, agility and speed. For some of them are still in their early stages of the career with a job. What will be your advice to those younger generation to convert that job into career and accelerate in their career? Any additional tips that you can
Absolutely.
share?
Yeah, I think just continuing the similar conversations that we have had, Sudhakar, I think what is important is how is it that the product that you're building is helping your business, right? So towards that, if you're looking at building a successful career and making your mark in a project or a product, then invariably the people who are able to combine technical knowledge with the understanding of business, right? I found that they get noticed, right? And they are able to drive that impact because your business is at some point wanting to connect with you directly, right? Because they feel that, hey, this person, it doesn't matter whether the person is senior, junior, whatever it is, but if the person understands the business and is able to solve problems with the whole context of what the business wants, I think that is something that really sets people apart, right? It is not so much as, whether this person has graduated from IIT, whether this person is coming in with a lot of data science experience. It's not that. It is how quickly is a person able to understand and solve the technical problem.
So once the person understands and have the appetite to solve business problems, and build that value, you will be in the right path. And, it is just a matter of time before you stumble upon a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
Switching on to the other side of the table, what are some of the mistakes that people do while being in a software field that they can avoid?
Yes, absolutely. So I've seen different stages of career, Sudhakar. People either prioritizing promotion, people prioritizing salary hikes, and those kind of factors over everything else, right? So in fact, we do see profiles where people have kept shifting companies every year, or they have kept moving jobs every 2 years. Right now, the problem that happens with this is, in the initial run-up of your career, you would definitely get a mileage out of this, right? Because your salary will grow after each subsequent jump. But then when you reach a certain level, it is not so much about, everything is going to be about your skill and the depth that you have. And that will come only if you prioritize learning, understanding business, and some of those aspects, which will help you really to stand out as a subject matter expert or to be seen as a technical expert later in your career. And at that point in time, you cannot invest in going back and developing this, because all these things you need to have in your initial stages of your career. So I think that's something that a lot of people miss, because they are really focused on driving up their salary. They are looking at position, title, without realizing that after 10 years, after 12 years of your career, everything is going to be about the impact you are able to drive, which will come through the depth and experience that you have through your initial stages of career. So I think that's a mistake that I've seen people do time and again.
This is a very valid thing that you have brought forward, Sunil. Especially the grads. Okay, so when I say grads, people that are graduating, and they tend to get into this comparison mode. Okay, every other year, what is their peer doing and how much are they drawing? What is their title? And basis which they take these hasty decisions. And as you rightly mentioned, like this is going to have a long-term impact. And thank you for highlighting that particular point. So Sunil, this has been a fabulous conversation so far, and definitely we are loving every bit of it. And we would like to spice it up by asking you a few interesting rapid fire questions with your consent. Are you okay?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for volunteering. So here comes the first bullet out of our rapid fire. Sunil, what is the most adventurous thing that you have done so far in your life?
Yeah. All right. So one role that I took, of heading the process and quality team for, one of the centers in my earlier role, that's probably something in hindsight that was very adventurous, because I was completely shifting from delivery and I had to lead the center through a CMMI level 5 certification. Right. And if you guys, anybody who has heard about this, it is very, very process heavy, and you really need to understand the Six Sigma, a lot of statistics. Just to give you an example, right, there is something called Gauge R&R, which is just a tool used to test the variability in testing between two testers working on a particular product testing, right? So to be able to completely switch, get into it, and be able to take the center, although I had support from leadership, to take the center through a CMMI level 5 certification, in hindsight, was probably something that was very ambitious and adventurous, which if I knew the depth of what was involved, maybe I would have thought a little bit more before jumping into it, but definitely benefited quite a bit from that experience. It did give a lot of visibility to senior level leadership, talking to them, understanding aspects of, delivery, business, and all of that. But that's probably one thing that stands out.
Absolutely. I concur with you. In fact, I'm still into that kind of roles, okay, wherein I lead the process improvements, and I understand the tool that you mentioned, the Gauge R and repeatability and reproducibility, whether it is operator error or whether it is a process error kind of thing, and completely resonate. But it gives immense exposure, because if you are working on a single project or program, you'll get exposure only to that one. Whereas if you are a process guy, you get exposure to everything that is happening within the organization. So that actually motivates me to take those kind of roles and all. And thanks for sharing that. So with that, we'll move on to the next question from the rapid fire, Sunil. What is your favorite failure?
Sure. So initial stages of my career, I was a little bit undecided whether I should continue in software delivery. Should I move into management? So there was a time where I was really considering MBA at one point in time. But what happened then is my first GMAT, when I appeared for my GMAT, the score was about 710. And unfortunately, my career at that point in time was just into development. So I was not able to make it. I was not able to crack into the premier colleges at that point in time. So I failed then. So I took a break. For some reason, I thought it's probably because my GMAT score is not great. So I went and appeared for GMAT again. I was able to increase my score to about 740, 750. But even then, I was not able to make it to the premier colleges. So after that, I had already got about 10, 11, 12 years of experience, and it was kind of too late for me to get into. But in hindsight, I feel that maybe just continuing in software probably helped me more, because now I'm doing a lot of the things that I see people from premier colleges doing. Also got a lot of extra delivery experience and the experience across different areas. But now why that is favorite is because I was able to learn and improve and get better at doing something, although it is just like giving a competitive exam. But that gave me the confidence that if I really try, I'll be able to do things better. And in the end, it just worked out, right? So I did not lose a lot of money on the course itself, but I still was able to cover ground by just working on my career, right? So I think that's something that kind of stands out for me.
Yeah, that's great. And thanks for being so candid and sharing your favorite failure story. It's so inspiring. And moving on to the next one, Sunil. What is the hidden talent or probably a fun fact about you, which you would like to share with our audience?
Absolutely. So, what a lot of people I've seen and my team consider me as somebody who is cool under pressure, right? So, my team does take care of a lot of critical applications. So we do tend to be in scenarios where you've got a lot of dollars getting impacted, and there is a lot of stress in being able to go find out the failure and fix things ASAP. So what I found is that I'm able to be composed and not get overstressed under the circumstance. And probably what's helped me to do that is that, I also tend to like cracking PJs quite a bit. Right now, that's something that a lot of people do not know. They do not, when they see my face, they probably think that I'm very serious, person and things like that. I do like leveling up things by having a little bit of fun element in work. And I think it is very important because it's helped me, and it's also helped me connect with teams, because, the PJs are such poor quality that people cannot laugh initially. But when you crack a couple of them, they kind of get pumped up and they open up and they connect with you. Right. So that's something that's really helped.
Yeah. Very interesting one, Sunil. Sunil, here comes my next bullet out of the rapid fire. What is been one question on your mind for which you didn't get any answer so far?
Sure. I think the one question that's been always there is what next? So what is it that I really want to do? What is the next thing that I would like to go get done and things like that? Because the way I see it, I've got at least like 15, 20 years of career ahead of me. And so the one question that's always changing, Naveen, is what should I be focusing on next? Right. And even now, for example, I'm trying to look at whether should I go in more technical depth, go back into coding, or should I look at something different? But that's kind of a constant question that's helped me to rediscover, look at learning, look at other aspects. So that's something that I'm not sure if it'll get answered ever, because once I clear something, there'll be that question again. But I think that's something that's been there.
I second you, Sunil, because being in the IT field, like most of us are always in the same boat actually. What next?
Exactly.
How can we have long-term career and all? Yeah, great rapid fire so far. So here comes my last one for the rapid fire, Sunil. Sure. What will be your message to your own younger version? Probably a 20-year-old Sunil.
Yeah. So I would probably say that, be a little more patient. So, that's something that I would say. That's because the message that I gave earlier, a lot of them I have learned the hard way through my own experience. So, I have done the same mistakes. I have prioritized sometimes getting a lucrative position, over things and things like that. So that would be my answer is be patient, prioritize learning consistently, and try to have fun, because you're not in a race, right? You do not need to prove anything to anybody. You try to focus on learning, try to be comfortable with what you're doing. You will invariably get better at what you do, right? Rather than focusing on, hey, this person is getting promoted, I also need to get promoted. If not, there's something wrong with me. So instead of going into those kind of stressful situations, I would rather say that, be patient, prioritize learning, and enjoy what you do.
What a lovely tips. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. And
Sure.
that was an amazing rapid fire round. Thank you so much for being so candid and so sport. So with that, I'll hand over the session back to mainstream over to Sudhakar.
Sure.
Thank you, Naveen and Sunil. Amazing, real-time scenarios. I think most of the IT folks will be able to connect to this, right? The tracking pieces, some adventures, some failures that will help us, in the long run. Like Steve Jobs mentioned, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, right? You can't connect the dots looking forward. And a couple of things like Naveen mentioned. One is curiosity of next. I think that is with every one of us, right? We don't know what is going to happen, because way back, I think, Sunil, when you started the career 21 years back, like in 99, 2000, we all were told that, computers will take over. It is more like the Terminator 2, right? Computers will take over. And now after 20 years also, we are talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, computers will take over. So I think this is ever-changing goalpost. Yeah. Computers will take over routine, mundane activities, but human intelligence cannot be replaced. Yes. That is really very critical. Thank you so much for being so candid. One final question for this session, Sunil.
Sure.
What will be one piece of advice that you want to give for those who want to make big in their careers just like you?
Sure. I would just say that I kind of admire what both of you are doing, right? So, I understand that this is not non-profit. You're doing this with the intention of helping and supporting people who are beginning their career and things like that. So I would say, what you guys are doing is something that's a way to go, right? So look at not being focused on ourselves, look at being helpful, being supportive of the people around you, without the expectation of getting any returns, right? Because this being what it is, you're not obviously doing it for anything, but just with the hope that people are able to get benefited with it, they are able to improve their career. So I think that's a way to look at things, is to be altruistic, to be open-minded, to be looking at how we can help people around us, be it within our own community. It could be people within your own teams. It could be people in the business. It could be like what Naveen and Sudhakar are doing, the community around you, right? So I think that's one thing that will definitely help improve yourself as a person and will also open up things, right? You never know what conversations lead where and things like that. So that's what I would suggest as something that people should aspire to do, is be open to initiatives, be open to support and help people without expecting any gain back.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Thanks to the patrons and guests like you who want to spend their some of their quality personal time with us over the weekend, nevertheless, to give it back to society. So we are just providing that platform, and thanks to the patrons like you who are providing us the invaluable content and their time to impact the society positively. Sunil, it has been a phenomenal talk. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was indeed our pleasure to host you and to talk about excellence in software development, but a software engineer's journey at large. We really appreciate you taking time for us.
Thanks a lot, Naveen. Sudhakar, I've enjoyed my time as well, thoroughly. Thank you.
Wonderful. And it was definitely a pleasure hosting you, Sunil. Thank you again for being part of TGV's journey in shaping lives and careers of millions across the globe.
Sure.
All right. So it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. And folks, today's trivia is about first ever computer virus. And do you know there was a virus named Creeper, okay, which was developed in 1971, and it was made just as an experiment just to see how it spreads between the computers. The good thing or the bad thing about the message is the virus simply displayed the message, I am the creeper, catch me if you can. Interesting, isn't it? Thank you for listening. There is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Take care. Be safe. Until next time, bye-bye. And we are signing off for today. See you all in the next episode with another wonderful guest.